Hey peeps, this video has been highly requested and it's a Friday, which is Venus's day. I've personally been working with the goddess Venus a great deal in my own journey, and this Beltane I'm going to be offering an observance in honor of the goddess Venus. So it just felt like the right day and the right time to record this video from my viewer request series. So many of you have asked me to do a video recommending specific decks to work with the goddess Venus, decks that I've found the most helpful for connecting to her energy. Some of these decks you may be expecting, some you may not be. And I do have quite a good, I feel like a good and even mixture of Oracle to Tarot. You guys know that my main love really is Tarot, and so maybe a little bit Tarot heavy here, but I do have some really great Oracle options as well. Just a note in the kind of common energy in the Tarot community right now, some of these decks are investment decks, some are definitely really accessible no matter where you are in your budget. I will put links to the indie decks down below, and if they're an Amazon deck, I will let you know that it's possible to purchase the deck on Amazon. Okay, I want to just start by saying how I experience Venus's energy. A lot of my own personal healing journey the last few months has been on releasing the kind of Western view of Venus as just a flighty kind of bimbo goddess. There's a part of reclaiming Venus within yourself and the energy of sacred sexuality where I do think there's a beauty to exploring that kind of licentious, delightful indulgence that Venus holds within her. But Venus is a multifaceted goddess, and there are so many beautiful layers to her. And I hope, and my intention in this list is to give you some opportunity to experience Venus as the fully fleshed goddess that she is. Yes, she is the goddess of love. Yes, a lot of her myths really do place her in that kind of conceited, self-involved role that is not the end-all be-all of the goddess Venus. So if you are feeling called to work with her right now, please feel affirmed in exploring the power of love in its multi-faceted expressions. It does not always need to be about sexuality or beauty, and yet there is a deep power to walking in beauty, as the Native American tribal peoples would say, that allows us to live a life that's deeply fulfilling. So that being said, I'm going to start with the Star Spinner Tarot. I love this deck. It's really, really beautiful. And I think it connects with the effervescent, innocent, endless opportunity that Venus holds within her. You know, I feel like even though I do consider her a mother goddess, she does hold that energy of being able to reinvent yourself. And I love the energy of the Star Spinner for holding that kind of indefinable space of possibility. And so I think if you're wanting to connect with Venus in her lighter energy and in that energy of being able to reinvent yourself and explore a part of yourself that maybe you've really confined to a box, this is a really great deck to do that. Incidentally, this deck is also available on Amazon and it's reasonably priced. I have purchased this deck with my own funds, if I recall correctly. I did have an unboxing on the channel, and so you can explore that if you want to see all the imagery in this deck. But it's a really beautiful tarot deck for, again, connecting with that lightness, that air element, that ability to reinvent yourself, and also like curiosity in regards to yourself. If you're looking to get to know, again, a part of yourself that you haven't allowed to have a lot of life or a lot of expression within your story, this is a beautiful deck, and Venus is a wonderful goddess to connect with for that purpose. So that is the Star Spinner Tarot by Trungles. I hope I am saying that correctly. I'm going to put her back in her box because I actually really love the cardstock on this deck, and I don't like her to get damaged. She likes to be in her box. Her box is gorgeous, right? There's so many different ways I could go with that. The next deck is more for Venus in her full-fledged sexuality. This deck does contain nudity. I am not sure if this deck is still available. This is an indie deck. This is one of the few decks that's made it with me for over a decade in her original form. This is Le Tarot de Femmes Erotiques. And this is everything that's Marlene Dietrich, film noir, sensual and lusty about Venus. This deck is really great for that. If you're looking to get back in touch with your sexual being and feeling empowered in your physical body, this is a sexy deck for that. It's got that little hint of naughty voyeurism, film noir, old school, early 20th century photography. And I love the key words that are included with each tarot card in this deck. It kind of gives you a slightly different jumping off point, which is really enjoyable. And like I said, I'm not sure if this deck is still available for purchase. If it is, I will put the link below. But if you're able to get your hands on a copy of this deck, I do think it's well worth the investment, especially if you're looking to heal wounds around sacred sexuality and empowerment in regards to your body. I think Venus, when we work with her in her truest expression, can be very healing if we've coped with body image issues, and as well as eating disorders or things like that, even disordered eating, around trying to force our body to fit a certain societal mode. This deck can be very healing to allow you to open up to your body as beautiful, as sacred, as sexual and sensual, exactly as it is, without needing to change it. So that is Le Tarot de Femmes Erotiques. Love that deck so much. Okay, so I'll show this deck next. So the Ocean Dreams Oracle by Danielle Noel, however you pronounce her last name. This is an indie deck. It is an investment deck. It is pricier. This was gifted to me by a very, very dear friend of mine. And I have been using this deck in regards to allowing for softness with the sacred feminine. A big part of my personal journey in working with Venus has been allowing myself to soften, to open, and to be vulnerable. And this deck is so watery and intuitive that it lends itself well to that type of kind of that softness, that opening, that intuitive space that Venus can help us to access when we connect with her. I have not really been using the guidebook. I'm going to be really 100% honest with you guys. I've really just been using it intuitively and drawing a card from this in front of my altar for Venus and just allowing myself to communicate with her, to talk to her through the card draw around what might be coming up for me at that moment with the sacred feminine. So like I said, this is an investment deck. It is an indie deck. It's very sumptuous and indulgent, as Venus does love to be on occasion. And so if you are looking to connect with that softer aspect of Venus, this is a beautiful deck to do so. And that is an oracle deck. It is not tarot. Okay, I want to go to the Night Fairies by Paolo Barbieri. This is an oracle deck. It is available to purchase on Amazon. I purchased this deck with my own funds. Oh my God, do I love this deck. And oh my God, is this one of my like sexy decks. This is a fucking sexy deck. Yes, it is Fae energy, but I actually feel Venus in this really deeply. Like the multifaceted aspect of Venus. It's so delicious. It's so ripe. It's so fertile and creative. And it holds a lot, well, it is a Night Fairies Oracle. It holds a lot of the magic of night. So it's like that moody, sensual, full-bodied, fully feminine aspect of Venus. That's such a delight to connect with on our journeys when we work with the goddess. This is a wonderful expression of Venus, and Also, you get some animal magic in there, and you have that Fae energy as well. So I highly recommend this deck across the board. I've got to check and see if I've actually done a full review, because I need to. I really, really love this deck. And I do feel just that dark feminine power of Venus connected with this deck really, really beautifully. I have really not stopped working with it in some way, shape, or form since I purchased it. I just freaking love that deck. The next deck on the list is the Magick of You Oracle. If you are looking to experience empowerment as you're connecting with Venus, if you want to connect with the magical side of yourself and the physical as spiritual as well as ritual, this is a beautiful deck to connect with Venus around. I really love this deck for empowerment and self-worth. And Venus is a great goddess to work with in connection to this, because that's at least how I feel and how I've experienced her. That's what her essence is about. That is what her essence is about. So if you're looking for self-worth and empowerment around, especially if you're embodied in the female, if you are a woman in physical form, I think this is a really beautiful deck to speak to, building your sense of empowerment and self-worth around that. This is a gorgeous deck. I mean, literally it says unlock your hidden truths, and I feel like that's really a beautiful aspect of Venus. So that is the Magick of You Oracle. The Difficult Damsels Oracle, I love when you want to have that like intimate, like frolicking naked in a field, rococo, gorgeous, beautiful, Renaissance kind of energy with Venus. This deck lends itself so well for that. You're looking at a lot of pre-Raphaelite artwork in this deck. A viewer gifted this to me and she created it. I will put the link to purchase the deck below. It's just delightful. It's fairy tale Venus energy, and who doesn't want to engage with that part of Venus as well? You're supposed to have fun working with her too, guys. It's not all hard work. And I think this deck lends itself well to like, I can be in my power, I can be gorgeous, and I can be playful too. And I really love this deck for that. So this is the Difficult Damsels Tarot. It's just a lot of fun. Sorry guys, my allergies are just through the roof today. Okay, next deck on the list. I have a lot of decks here, but I've been working with a lot of decks for Venus. So you'll find something here that'll work for you no matter what. This is the Elle Qui Oracle. This is one of those, like, again, very similar to Magick of You. I think you could interchange either of these. It's got this really gorgeous, sumptuous, mysterious, beautiful feminine energy to it, and it's also encouraging empowerment. Now this actually has various goddesses and feminine archetypes, so it's not like straight up just Venus, but if you read with it intuitively and connect with it as a facet or aspect of Venus, you know, each card pull, I think it really lends itself well to that Venusian air of mystery. I really think this deck is gorgeous, and as time goes by, I enjoy this deck even more. I actually need to do an updated video on this one because there is a really lovely way of working with this deck outside of just working with it for specific archetypes of the feminine that you may wish to connect with. Oh my God, I have so many decks, guys. Okay, this is another investment deck. This is the Tarot by Mattison. This, again, it's an investment deck. It's an indie deck. A viewer gifted this deck to me, and I will have a full breakdown of this deck coming to the channel very soon. I really wanted to kind of work with it on my own. A very dear friend of mine in tarot calls this like the Woodstock kind of slutty deck, and I agree wholeheartedly. This is that full freedom to be as slutty and sexy as you want here with Venus. I think it lends itself really well to that type of experience. And so if this is something that you feel it's worth the investment in, it's really gorgeous and yummy for that. So again, this is the Tarot by Mattison, and the artwork is really great for ritual around bringing in an experience of empowered sexuality and feeling good and enjoying being in your own skin. It's also, I will say, a great deck to get naked with. I love this deck. So That is the Tarot by Caitlin Mattison. The Moonchild Tarot, this is the first edition. I know that there is a second edition that's going to be released. I have a emotionally fraught relationship with this deck, which really applies to my past with Venus anyhow. But I think the artwork, again, very similar to Ocean Dreams here, in that it's very moody. This is like my Stevie Nicks Venus version. So that kind of moody Gemini space. This deck lends itself well to exploring that aspect of Venus. Another like great nighttime realm version of working with Venus, I feel. I don't know. I have so many feelings about this deck. I don't want to say I really like this deck because I have a very tempestuous relationship with her. I will not lie to you. And I don't pick her up for years at a time. And then I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. Like you and I are on the same wavelength. I think like if I was gonna go out for drinks with this girl, like we would be drinking like something that was very dank in its taste, you know, like moody, and we're definitely listening to Fleetwood Mac. Like this is one where I think it could be a good window in if you have difficulty working with Venus, because it's not straight up sexy. But again, Venus is more than that. So it lets you see that kind of moody, poetic aspect of Venus. So Moonchild Tarot is on my list of recommendations. Kind of along the lines of the Tarot by Caitlin Mattison, the Black Lily Tarot, which is an indie deck. I am not sure if it is still available for purchase. This was gifted to me by a viewer and a very dear friend of mine. There is nudity in this deck. If you want to get in that gritty kind of sexy version of Venus, and you want to let that slutty side of you come out, this is a really great deck for that. It's much more reasonably priced if you're if you're on a budget or looking for a budget-friendly deck that gives you that kind of slutty, sacred sexuality vibe. The Black Lily Tarot is, as I recall, more reasonably priced. Again, if it's still in print, I will put the link below. But I really like the Black Lily Tarot for that kind of, you know, let's get sexy while we're naked outside in the dirt and Jimi Hendrix is playing kind of vibes, right? Okay, let's see. Only 3 decks left. Well, maybe 4, because I have 2 honorable mentions. Okay, now one of you told me how to pronounce this correctly. Fyodor Pavlov Tarot. Please forgive me for butchering it. I have a lot of thoughts on this deck, and I'm going to do its own video in the future, but I do think this is a great deck for connecting with Venus. I think it's a gorgeous deck for connecting with your sexuality, being able to encompass the full spectrum of the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine and any iteration within that. It's very sexy without having to say a lot. You know what this deck is? This is the dominatrix version of Venus. Yes, this is Dom Venus showing up to tell you the truth and to let you know that your kink is sexy. Your kink is beautiful. You get to explore that. You get to have fun with that. And that through exploring your truth within your sexuality, you actually connect to your spirituality very powerfully. So I strongly and highly recommend this deck if that's a space that you're looking to offer integration to within your life, or just an area that you want to explore. And come on, this card backing is everything. Oh my God, it's everything. Okay. The more maiden aspect of Venus that I was discussing at the beginning of the video, I think the Hush Tarot speaks really well to that. So if you want to reconnect to that innocent, fae, you know, freshly born from the oceanic waves aspect of Venus, this is a really gorgeous deck to do that with. And it's also got a little bit of that dirt and dark that you find in the woods. And I love this deck so much. I've got to do another video on this deck too, guys. The more that time goes by with this deck, I really love it. And I think it's a very clear channel for Venus. Now, much like the Night Fairies Oracle, I don't think it's solely devoted to Venus. But I do think that this is one that you can channel messages from Venus with really beautifully. So this is the Hush Tarot. This is available on Amazon, and it is reasonably priced. okay, I want to go into honorable mentions. One of the decks I do not have up here with me, it is school vacation this week and Vincent is playing quietly downstairs, so we're not going to interrupt him to go get that deck. And I think you know what my recommendation is here, or excuse me, honorable mention. Tarot of Vampyres. The Queen of Scepters in Tarot of Vampyres is my ultimate and fullest expression of Venus within myself. That card is when I feel fully embodying Venus energy, I am the Queen of Scepters within Tarot of Vampyres. However, I cannot put Tarot of Vampyres on every single deck recommendations for Deity list. So it's an honorable mention on this list. The next honorable mention I have is the Fallen Angels Oracle. In myth, Venus is the mother of the day star Lucifer, who is not the same mythological energy as Satan. I digress. We can talk about that in another video. But if you're looking to connect with the magical arts side, the occult side of Venus, I actually love Fallen Angels for that. It does hold a lot of sacred masculine energy within it, so it may not be up your alley if you're strictly looking to connect with Venus. But if you want like a Venus adjacent deck, a clarifier to a main deck to work with Venus, then the Fallen Angels Oracle is a really great option. And it is currently in stock on Amazon. There is another edition that's been released. Remember a few years ago when it went out of print and everyone was flipping their lid and the deck was like $300 online? We're not in the middle of that. So if you feel called to this deck and you don't have it, the Fallen Angels Oracle by Nigel Stuckey, I believe, is a really great addition to any collection. And I do think it's a great way to connect with Venus for sure. My last honorable mention is Journey of a Lonely Soul. Now, I know it is more connected to Persephone, but I have been experiencing it as very loving messages from Venus when I feel lost and alone, when I feel lonely on my path. I found a lot of love coming from this deck, and I do feel like it does hold more Venus energy for me than Persephone. Even though, like I said, I know, I get it, guys. A lot of you have really been like, this is a Persephone deck. And I do understand where you're coming from with that. But just for me, Venus is like my best friend. She's like my gal pal, you know? She's the one that I call when I'm really sad, or I feel lonely, or I want to tell her a really great thing that happened to me, or I buy a really gorgeous new pair of shoes, or I discover a really great cab, right? Like if I find a really great Cabernet Sauvignon, then like I've got to tell Venus. Venus is like my bestie. And I've really come to this beautiful space of healing in that neither she or I have to be sexy for the male gaze. But that we can be sensual and intelligent and gifted and smart and powerful and beautiful. And I think this deck has a lovely way of just kind of holding your hand. So if you are sad, if you're dealing with depression, if you're feeling lost and lonely, this deck, Journey of a Lonely Soul, it does have some defects within it, but if you can overlook those in the production value, I do think it can be a really beautiful friend reaching a hand out in the darkness. So this has been my super long deck recommendations for connecting with Venus. I hope this list hasn't been too exhaustive, but it's just, I've been so personally walking with her lately that, you know, I have a lot of decks that I feel like carry her energy. So I hope for the viewers who requested this, you found this video helpful. Please keep those recommendations coming. It's been so great to get to explore video creation content with you guys over the last few years as we've stepped more into viewer request videos. And I love each and every one of you. Please feel affirmed in connecting with Venus if you feel lost or stuck in your journey, and allow yourself to explore parts of yourself that perhaps you haven't let breathe in a long time. I am sending you, as always, so much love and many blessings. I'll see you in the next video.